Welcome back to Talking Hoosier Baseball. This is a podcast for the fans from the IUBase.com website for anyone wanting more information on the Indiana University baseball program. Today is Wednesday, June 12th, 2019. I'm Chris Feeney, and we're here tonight with the creator of IUBase.com, Josh Bennett, the stat guru of IUBase.com, Cassidy Palmer, and the master of the RPI, Carl James. All right. I know it was a rough weekend, but we're going to hear from that weekend from the regional. We're going to look ahead to the draft. We're going to take care of everything here on episode 44 of Talking Hoosier Baseball, the Jake Kelzer episode. Jake, it was great watching you throw those heaters. So this episode's yours. All right, so now the Louisville regional. Obviously, first game, Illinois State ran into a real good pitcher, Brent Hedrick. He threw 6 innings, 3 hits. You know, he just gave up the 2 runs, the Eli Dunham bomb. We had the early lead. But, 14 hits off Milto. They weren't really rocking him either. It wasn't like doubles and gaps and stuff like that. But, boy, were they finding holes. We were in a hole early, 7-2, I believe it was. And that 7th inning came around, though. 4 walks, guys getting hit, a couple of base hits, and all of a sudden we're tied. I know I was feeling it out on that berm. I thought we were going to pull that one off. Didn't go the way we wanted. We did fight back still to the 9th, though. Had the tying run at 3rd. Just didn't happen. Going into game 2 of the regional, we were going up against UIC. Now, unfortunately, it was a little bit of a shaky start from Sal Frank. And, we had to fight back from that as well. But thanks to some offense, bombs, okay, Lloyd, Barr, Ashley, we were able to pull that one off. And then we had the pleasant surprise of realizing we had Louisville for game 3. We were only going to have to beat them once to knock them out. I know I was pumped up. Okay, give me the doubleheader on Sunday. We were ready to go. Again, didn't go the way we wanted early. Another big hole to fight out of. But we did. All right, we fought back. I guess some of you probably remember how it ended. Bradley hit the homer in the 9th. Richardson kept us alive. There seemed to be a little argument maybe or something like that between the reliever and the umpire. Don't even really want to get into it. There might have been a horrible strike 3 call to end the game. It happened, all right? And then, not every successful regular season is going to translate into the postseason. Was it disappointing? Yes. We had some poor starting pitching. We had some poor relief pitching. We had some poor offense. We had some poor umpiring. I mean, we even had a poor press conference, to be honest. It happens, okay? It doesn't take away for the amazing regular season that we had, fighting back and winning the Big Ten title. It really was a pleasure to go through the season. And it just didn't translate into the postseason. It didn't translate at the Big Ten tournament. It didn't translate at the regional. But takes nothing away from that trophy that held at the Bard on that Sunday. Now, my Hoosier highlight for the regional is going to be, there's a couple to pick from, but I really, really thought that the Drew Ashley triple was a big hit, man. The crowd was into it. It was back and forth. It gave us real hope. It made that Louisville game a game. And with that big deficit, I just didn't want it to be Kentucky from a few years ago. Where, by the end, you're cheering the seniors and all that. No. When Ashley hit that triple, we had a ball game, and we continued to fight back. So that's going to be my Hoosier highlight for the regional. Carl, what about you?
For me, I'm going to go to the UIC game, specifically Jeremy Houston's RBI double in that game. I thought that was such a huge hit. The team needed runs after getting down early and got that huge hit. And it was an extra base hit from Jeremy, who was starting his first game in a while. It made a significant impact, and I think drove the momentum for the team in the rest of the game. Cass, what's your highlight?
So for me, my highlight was definitely that 7th inning of game 1 against Illinois State. Even though that game ended in a loss, to be down 2-7 that late and score 5 runs on just 3 singles with 4 walks and an HBP, that was big. It showed that we could fight back in that type of scenario without the big power hits. So for me, that was my highlight. It was the only game I really got to follow consistently thanks to work. I was listening to the game as the UIC game as we flew over top of Louisville. So that was the big game I got to see, and that was definitely a big moment for the weekend. So Josh, what do you think? What's your highlight?
Thanks, Cass. My highlight of the regional is just going to be the weekend as a whole. Going to home games is fun, but going on a weekend road trip with friends and family is very special to me. My crew was fortunate enough to do that a few times this season as we managed to see the first and last pitches of the 2019 season in person. But there's just something different about a road trip. You really just focus on the baseball and time together, go hit the town and hot spots that you really would never have a reason to do otherwise, eat at the local restaurants. Because most of the time at home games, you're thinking about the next day at work or chores you have to do when you get home. So to me, even though it didn't end up the way we wanted it to, it was an awesome weekend just being away. That said, in the future, bleachers at the BART would be preferred. But so now it's time to give out the red belts. Chris, who earned the belts this week?
All right. Thanks, Josh. And it was a great weekend, and thanks for your help. Several different assistants over the weekend. Thank you, sir.
No problem, brother.
Okay, so these are the shiny red belts. These are the regional red belts. All right. These go for, let's see, obviously the same type of thing for the regular season. But for these, obviously, the pressure's, harder. The lights are brighter, even though they were afternoon games. Everything's harder. So these are bigger deals. For the pitching red belt, for the Joey Donato, I'm going to go Gabe Bierman. He did let 2 inherited runners score, but besides that, he gave up no earned runs. He only gave up 3 hits. And he brought really a really good crew with him. I don't know if you guys could pick that up on TV or on the radio. Boy, the energy from the Bierman crew, whether it was friends or family from Jefferson, is it right? It was a lot of fans that Bierman brought. And just obviously he did great on the mound. And for what that kid was going through, he absolutely gets the shiny pitching red belt. For the offensive shiny red belt for the Alex Dickerson, I'm going to go Drew Ashley. He actually also made the Louisville All-Regional team for his performance. And, guys played 2 more games than him. So I really thought that they really noticed Drew's performance. He went 2 for 4, 2 for 5, 1 for 4, hit the home run. He hit the big triple that I spoke about before, had 2 walks, played good D. Again, it was a frustrating weekend, but guys did stand out nonetheless. Now, for defensive, this was the easiest one maybe of this season for the Tony Butler shiny red belt, Jeremy Houston. Not having to play it in a long time. I mean, I didn't look it up. It's been a while since Houston had played, and he shined. Okay, when he made that diving play down left field foul line, left his feet, made that great catch. And also one that might have got overlooked because I think the replay got it overturned and the guy ended up being safe. But he went deep in the hole. He had his feet on the grass, made the gun to first. Really impressive glove work from Jeremy. I really look forward to seeing him next year. Maybe solidify one of those middle infield spots, depending on how Mercer works it out. But Jeremy was just outstanding in the field. He wasn't bad at the plate either, but he actually got the offensive one. And obviously Bierman gets the pitching. And Houston, a well-earned defensive shiny red belt for the regional. Now, we kind of addressed the weekend in the regional, so we're going to move on from now to what happened just a couple days later, the MLB draft. And I got to tell you, I thought like the IU baseball managers were going to start getting drafted. It never ended. Everybody got drafted. 10 draft picks, a record for the program. Really exciting. For the day one. We all thought it was going to be day 2. That's a proper misspoke right there. We all thought it was going to start on day 2, but real late on day 1. It was about 12:45, I think it was. I was actually on my way to work. I found out about it on my phone. I wasn't even watching the draft anymore. I was heading to my job. Matt Gorski late in the second round to the Pittsburgh Pirates. Couldn't be happier for him. The 5-tool star that he's been for the 3 years he's been here. What a pleasure to watch Matt Gorski through the years. Obviously, he played a lot of first base. Actually took over the first base job as a freshman from a senior. Really played well. Hit right out the gate. Tons of big moments, whether it was the walk-off at Victory Field, the 3-run home run in the Omaha in the tournament to keep us alive with 2 outs in the 9th, hitting bombs over the scoreboard. So many big plays. I was speaking to Carl even before we went live, and he brought up a great point as far as his defense this year was just like a step above, and it was always good. It was just spectacular this year. I dug into his stats a little bit for his career here at IU, and I got to tell you, his career stats read like a really, really amazing Major League Baseball season. 165 games, 24 home runs, 108 RBIs. He slugged 491. He scored 127 runs, 32 doubles. Let's see. That's something to point out that I thought was pretty wild. In 3 seasons, in those 165 games, Matt Gorski grounded into 16 double plays. In 3 years, big time stuff. And something that was also impressive too, 2 total errors. And they were both freshman year. So that means he hasn't made an error in the field since that freshman year at first base. I think I remember one of them, and I don't think it was really an error. So I think he got jobbed. I think it should just be a 1 error on the board for Matt. But really impressive. It's been a pleasure to watch him. I'm so happy. I mean, he got that day one. From reading the Herald Times, it sounds like he didn't expect it either. Like there wasn't a watch party. Like he was packing boxes and stuff to pack up his apartment. I think he was the happiest guy sitting alone in his room in Bloomington. I'll tell you that. There's a big jump from day 1 and day 2. But really couldn't be happier for Matt and his family and his support system. He's got a big support system, and to just know how the work that he put in, and for him to be a 2nd round draft pick, the highest draft pick since Kyle Schwarber. Amazing stuff. And we got a picture floating around. I'm not sure how I got it. I just might have found it, that he was signing his contract at the table there with the Pirates in the background. Real good to see from Matt. So that was day 1, unexpectedly. Then we got over to day 2, and Carl's going to talk about day 2 for us.
Yes, day 2 was about starting pitching. 2 of the starting rotation were taken on day 2, both in the 6th round. Sunday starter, Andrew Saalfrank. What a year Andrew Saalfrank had this year. Big Ten pitcher of the year. And he was not in the starting rotation at all when the season started. When Tommy Summer went down with injury, Andrew Saalfrank got placed. Then once Big Ten season came around, he just started striking people out left and right. Huge strikeout games, 15 strikeouts, 14 strikeouts, huge games, and led Indiana to being, during the Big Ten season, 7-1 on Sundays, which was absolutely key to the team winning that Big Ten championship. Was the absolute domination that the team had on Sundays, and he didn't take the 1 loss on top of all of that. In the Big Ten season. Now, Andrew Saalfrank, in his 3 years so far at IU, has had some pretty impressive games. 2 particularly last season. He came out of the bullpen in an extra inning game, and was ridiculous, throwing 9 strikeouts. 7 strikeouts in 3 innings, if I remember right. It was an impressive in conclusion to a game there in extra innings. That just a game that was kind of dragging up to that point. But then, of course, his performance in that regional championship game at Texas, which while the team did lose, that Texas offense was rolling that entire weekend, and then just came to a halt when they faced Andrew Saalfrank. And we were a little disappointed not to see him coming right out of the gate this season. But, once he got his opportunity, he made a huge impact for this team, and obviously made a huge impact on the scouts. Our other second day person was Tanner Gordon, who came from this was his 1 year with IU. Came from John A. Logan. We had an idea that he was going to be part of this rotation right from the beginning. You'd heard a lot about him. You'd seen the physical frame. We even got a chance to talk to him right before the season. we got that little exclusive, which was pretty cool, and learned all about him and Logan Khalitha, their little bit of history, and then got to see him. It took him a little while to get going, but once he got going, he became a consistent Saturday starter. And was a solid guy you could count on week in, week out. I think, the highlight, he had a fantastic performance, even though the team lost in that game at Illinois with all of his family present. It was a really, really good outing. It's just the team wasn't able to produce any runs that game. And that was against a very good Illinois team. But he was solid. And again, that was, I think, 6-2 was the team's record on Saturdays over the Big Ten season. So it was a big part of winning that Big Ten title. So those were our day 2 guys. Now I'll hand it over to Josh, who will go over the wild record-setting day 3.
Thanks, Carl. Yeah, day 3 was quite a day for the Hoosiers, as we heard 7 names called. Matt Lloyd from Okotoks, Alberta, Canada, got the record-setting day kicked off as he went to the Reds in the 15th round. Paulie Milto from Greenwood went in the 23rd round to the White Sox. There were 2 Hoosiers drafted in the 36th round, as Scotty Bradley was selected by the Blue Jays and Cam Beecham from Peru was picked up by the Phillies organization. Cole Barr from Yorktown was selected by the Mariners in the 37th round. And to wrap things up in the 40th round, Evansville's Eli Dunham went to the Pirates, and senior Cade Bunnell was selected by the Braves organization. So for those counting at home, we had 3 different rounds where 2 Hoosiers were picked, and the Hoosiers had 10 players selected in the 2019 MLB draft. What an amazing accomplishment for the group. Another note for day 3 is that the lone Hoosier commit to get drafted was Reese Sharp from Noblesville. Reese went to the Giants in the 28th round. And we also received word earlier today that Ryan Feynman has signed a free agent deal with the Tampa Bay Rays. So although he wasn't drafted, add that to the list. It'll be interesting to see who decides to sign a pro contract and who chooses to come back to Bloomington for another season. The signing deadline's pushed way out, so we won't know for sure for quite a while. Probably right before fall ball starts. But congrats to all the Hoosiers who were drafted and have signed a contract. One more thing I'd like to mention is that Coach Merce's former team, Wright State, had 4 guys drafted, with 3 in the top 10 rounds, 2 in the top 4 rounds, actually. They also had an All-American and freshman All-American named. So I think that should give us a pretty good idea on his eye for recruits as well as player development because – and I'm not meaning this as a slight or shot at Wright State in any way. They're a D1 program, from crying out loud. But if he can get guys like that to go to Wright State, we should be sitting pretty good in Bloomington. So, Cass, can you tell us about the signing activity or announcements made since the draft?
Yep. So right now we don't know a ton yet, but we do know that Cole Barr will be coming back to campus. He announced that one pretty quickly. And we do know that Matt Gorski has signed his contract with the Pirates with a $1 million signing bonus. So that's a pretty nice payday right there. And as Josh said, Ryan Feynman did sign as a free agent with the Rays. So that was awesome news today. And so now that the season has come to a close, we're all gonna talk about some of our highlights from the season as a whole. So Chris, what's your highlight?
All right. Thanks, Cass. I cheated on this one. Like every single week, I have to make decisions with the red belts. So for this one, I decided not to. And I did a home highlight and a road highlight just because I felt like it. For the home highlight is got to be the Matt Lloyd walk-off bomb. Walking up along that rail in like the 5th inning, it seemed like this was going to be another 3rd place Big Ten finish. I hope they put us in a good regional as a 3 seed. And then, not that much. Probably about an hour later, we're jumping around with winter coat out in the grass. Walk-off shot. It was amazing. We can't underestimate Richardson's home run to lead off the 9th either, or Feynman's bomb in the 7th. I don't want to take away from that. Really, the entire game as a whole, would be my season highlight for the home slate. But the Lloyd bomb, crazy. We don't win the Big Ten. I mean, we've said it about a lot of things, but we won the Big Ten by half a game. So we were down 2.5 with 6 to play. I was talking about it with somebody a couple of days ago. It's really amazing when you think about it. 6 games to play, down 2.5 games. But Matt Lloyd's for the home highlight. For me, for the road highlight that I invented, I'm going to go with the Paulie Milto game in Seattle. You know, it was real fun. Cass, gave us her time to do the live stats, and I got to jump in and out of that with Carl and Josh and all that. The guy's throwing a no-hitter, and then really another part, you would think that would be enough, right? We shut down his team that was in the College World Series. But then the next day or later that night to hear about that mound visit, right? Mercer goes to the mound, and he says, I'm not a pitching coach. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I asked them. I asked Ryan, well, Ryan, what do you want to do? I want to do what Lloyd wants to do. And Lloyd says, I want to smoke him. And sure enough, he strikes him out, and we win it shutout style, almost no-hitter. And it was just really impressive victory. It was a really fun night. So even though no one asked me to go with 2, I did it anyway. I went with a home highlight and a road highlight. It was a really fun season. Again, we're not going to ignore the disappointment of the postseason. It didn't translate. We know that. But it was really fun regular season. And those would be my 2 highlights. Next, it looks like we got Carl with his season highlight.
Yes, for me, I'm going to go to the return of Tommy Summer after his injury. It had been a few weeks, and Coach had been hinting that Tommy might be coming back at some point, but it kind of felt like it was a couple weeks away. And that Penn State doubleheader, it kind of felt like the team was a little light in pitching for that particular doubleheader. Doubleheaders are tough usually. And then you see Tommy up there throwing, and like, is he really ready today? That wasn't the impression I was getting. And then he comes in, and it's just 2 absolutely dominant innings. And then go to the midweek game that same week after he threw those 2 innings, and the starter gets in a ridiculous amount of trouble. Didn't get an out. 3, the bases are loaded. 2 runs have scored. Tommy comes in, doesn't give up any inherited runs, pitches 6 innings, only giving up a single hit. That week of performance from Tommy Summer, and it just gave so much hope that you know what, now that Andrew Saalfrank is getting it as a starter, that this team has a good relief option. And this is even before, the emergence of Gabe Bierman, really the big emergence of Gabe Bierman. So it was a big hit. It was a big highlight for me. And I think a big point at which winning that Big Ten title seemed plausible at that point. So now, Cass, what do you have for us?
So to me, one of the biggest highlights this season was just that power surge. I'll have more details in my stats section coming up, but seeing the power across the board, we knew the Mats were going to hit home runs. We knew some of those, but I don't know about you guys. I did not expect Cole Barr to be going home run for home run with Matt Lloyd this season. That was just not something I saw coming up. And so to see both the usual suspects and some new guys really hitting those head high line drives was really, really good, especially in year 1 of a new staff. I mean, if they can do that in year 1, I'm just waiting to see what they do years 2, 3, 4, and moving forward. And I mean, one of the best things has to have come from IU having more homers in a single game against Maryland than Purdue had for a decent chunk of the season. I mean, that has got to count for something. So that power surge, that was really special this year, and that's my season highlight. So Josh, how about you? What stood out to you this season?
Thanks, Cass. There were so many highlights this season. The walk-offs were great. Coach Z ringing the bell at the Vic is always a special moment. The tear that Grant went on when he was first inserted into the lineup was absolutely incredible. But I'm going to have to go with watching Gabe finish off the game against Rutger to deliver IU the Big Ten championship, a freshman from Indiana, after going through what he just had. That's movie stuff. I'll never forget watching the dog pile and then the scene down on the field afterwards with the guys getting to share that with their friends and family. To clinch something like that at home in front of all your friends and family has to be truly special. So that's going to be my highlight for the year. So that'll wrap up the season highlights from our gang. So Cass, I hear you've prepared some statistical home run goodness for us tonight.
Yes, and before I even get started, I'm going to note that most of these numbers were put together when I was at an epidemiology conference, and so I got into very, very stats mode while I was there. So I went kind of nuts with some of this, but I wanted to take a deeper look at those home runs. And as everyone knows, we finished the year with 95 home runs, which is 1.6 per game. Last year, it was 68 home runs at 1.2 per game. Looking at home and away for both 18 and 19, 47% of the home runs were at the BART and 53% were away from the BART, regardless of if that was truly away or neutral. And one of the things that caught me off guard, the 2019 Hoosiers had just one fewer game with no home runs compared to 2018. What really, really made the difference was those big home run games, the ones with 3 or more home runs. The 2019 Hoosiers had a ton more of those than 2018. That's where the big difference came in. I also took a quick look at park factor and how that played into hitting home runs. The park factor at the BART is 87, which is moderately pitcher friendly. 100 is dead even. So the BART is moderately pitcher friendly. Probably some of that has to do with early season weather. The average park factor on the road was 92.9, which is still on the pitcher friendly side, but not by that much. And where my stats brain came in last week, this was statistically significantly different. So the away and neutral parks were, on average, more likely to be more batter friendly than the BART. So it was a little easier to hit home runs on the road than at home, which is where you're going to get that 53% compared to 47%. And when you look at the number of home runs per game, the park factor looks a lot like you'd expect, where the biggest home run games of like 4 or 5 plus home runs in a game were in the most batter-friendly parks. I'm not going to go too much into the fun confidence intervals and statistical significance, but it's looking at the 2 seasons, last year to this year, the increase in home runs in 2019 could essentially be a fantastic fluke, this nice combination of little factors, which when added together could be called chance. But when you add in the fact that it's the first year of a new coaching staff, I tend to not think that's the case. There is probably something there, something that really did change that home run number. But it'll be interesting in the next couple of years to compare the Skip years to the Coach Limo years to the Coach Mercer years once we get a few more of those seasons in. See if this year, those 95 home runs were a fluke, or if that's going to maintain over the next few years. So that's all yes.
Would you say that kind of goes hand in hand, though, with the strikeouts as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm hoping that they're not. I'm hoping the strikeouts were a little bit of a fluke and they won't be quite so high. especially the fact that it was so exaggerated early in the season. I'm thinking that was a little bit of the statistical propensity for strikeouts early in the season anyway, on top of the veteran returning guys still trying to adjust to a new approach at the plate. And those two things combined led to a lot more strikeouts than we would have normally seen. So I'm hoping it's still a little bit of a fluke on that side. But when you have that much power, you're going to have more strikeouts anyway. But that's also something to watch over the next few years as well. So, Chris, what kind of updates do you have on Hoosier alumni lately?
Oh, I got an update for you. It is 8:33 Eastern Time, p.m., and as of 8:25 p.m., we have a newest Pro Bowl Hoosier, Tanner Gordon.
Oh, yay.
Okay? He signed a $246,000 signing bonus. He's an Atlanta Brave. Good thing I looked at Twitter during the podcast, I guess. So there is live breaking news on the pod. Congrats, Tanner and his family. That's a $250,000 signing bonus for the young man. That is big time stuff. Congratulations. Even as a Mets fan, I'm going to say congratulations. You're an Atlanta Brave. We've got that sent over to us from David Welsh. He's a big fan of the IU base and Pro Bowl Hoosiers, and he travels around a lot and sees a lot of our alumni playing minor league games. That's David Welsh. He sent that over to me. So it's coming from Talking Chop, which is an SB Nation website that works with Braves analysis. It's legitimate. So congrats to Tanner. As far as other Pro Bowl Hoosier news, I didn't have this one on my list when we were planning it, but wanted to touch on Kyle Schwarber's hot at bat at the plate. He's hit 4 home runs in the past 8 days. He's crushing balls. Okay, I like to put the distance shots, like if it's more than 410 or 415, and I feel like every home run I'm sending out on the Twitter account's 430, 440. It's really good stuff for Kyle. He did start off slow, and we addressed that a few weeks ago on the pod. And it's really good to see that his power is coming back. He's hitting at the top of the lineup, and it seems to really be agreeing with him. So that's good stuff for him. Now, we still have Josh Fegley playing well for Oakland. He is still on that all-star ballot. He's a little behind in the voting, though. When the first votes came out, he was 8th or something. So it doesn't look like he's going to get in on the fan vote. But that doesn't mean don't give up. I mean, you could be 2.5 games back with 6 to play and still win, right? So vote for Josh for MLB All-Star. You go to MLBAllStarVote.com. You can vote for whoever you want, but, Fegley is on the ballot. And maybe he could get voted in by the coaches, who knows. But it doesn't look like he's going to make the fan vote, but that's all right. Josh is our favorite All-American League catcher. So also touching on for Pro Bowl Hoosier stuff, Kyle Hart up in AAA has 2 wins already. And his team's in Louisville right now playing at bats. And for this weekend, he's going to be at Victory Field. I don't, unfortunately, have a pitching rotation for the weekend as of this podcast, but we'll send it out when we know. They played a doubleheader Sunday, so it threw some stuff off. If they hadn't, he would have been lined up for Saturday night. And I'd feel pretty comfortable saying he's scheduled, but because of the doubleheader, it could be Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. But go the whole weekend. I mean, the place is amazing. Victory Field's really fun. And, Kyle Hart will be there. He just might not be starting the day you go. If it stays in turn, though, it would be Saturday. I looked into the tickets and stuff. It's not a promotion day. It's not like they do a lot of bobbleheads, which the place will sell out for. It's nothing like that. You should be able to get day game tickets when we get a starting rotation. So it'd be fun to see Kyle pitch for the Pawtucket Red Sox. And as far as other alumni stuff, we're going to be putting out, hopefully, I'm going to try to put either a video update out during the off season, every so often. I'm not going to commit to weekly or anything like that, but Pro Bowl Hoosiers gives me some info. I will obviously pass that along. He helps us out a lot on the site. We're going to try to keep it up through the off season. It's not really the off season for the alumni. It's the off season just for, Hoosier baseball. Most of them are in summer league anyway, it seems like this year. A lot of action in the summer leagues. But that's pretty much it for the alumni. I'm going to kick it over to Carl. He's got what's going on with the Big Ten and the NCAA in general.
Yes. It's been a very interesting postseason for the Big Ten. I'm going to go ahead and get. We obviously know what happened with Indiana, Illinois. Illinois went 2 in a barbecue. It happens. Had a great season. This was a team that was not expected to do a ton and surprised a lot of people with some really good performance to begin with. They beat Indiana in a 2-1 series. Looked very strong. Did have a big injury there down the road, and then just kind of fizzled there in the postseason. Now, Ohio State and Nebraska. Obviously, Ohio State just being there was a big deal for them, and they did manage to, both Ohio State and Nebraska managed to win a game in their regional, just like Indiana went 1-2. But obviously, you talk about the postseason, you talk about the Big Ten. The Big Ten is back in Omaha. Michigan won both the Corvallis regional without having to face Oregon State, who were eliminated by the other teams, but then went to Los Angeles for the Los Angeles Super Regional against UCLA, and their stud pitchers, who Indiana beat both of them. Both Tommy Henry and Carl Kaufman were both beat by Indiana in Ann Arbor. It's so weird because Indiana is a team that was always struggling in stud pitching and then finally came out against them. Michigan, conversely, all season had been looked at as this massively talented team that couldn't win the big series, that couldn't consistently beat really good teams. And this talented team has turned that around, and they beat the overall number one team in the country in their own ballpark. And because of that, they're playing Saturday at 2:00 in Omaha, Nebraska against Texas Tech on ESPN. So congratulations to Michigan representing the Big Ten in Omaha. It's obviously the first time that a Big Ten team has been at the College World Series since Indiana in 2013. And before that was Michigan themselves in 1984. So quite a long amount of time, and it's good to see that the Big Ten is one of the 4 conferences represented in the College World Series. Some other news around college baseball. In the Big Ten, there's been multiple coaching changes, or at least there will be, because we've lost coaches. Rutgers and Coach Joe Laterio have parted ways after the season. Rutgers has struggled a bit since coming to the Big Ten, probably looking to try to improve things. We know they have some interest in baseball, as they were one of the 2 schools, along with Indiana, to vote for the third paid assistant that did not pass, but they were among that and a leader in that. The big surprise was the announcement by Nebraska coach Darren Erstad that he is retiring, basically, and resigning from college baseball. His words are that he's going to spend more time with his family and his kids as they grow older. He had quite a good playing career and doesn't really need the money. That we kind of get that, but it's a big loss for Nebraska, a big loss for the Big Ten to not have Darren Erstad around. I guess if there's a lesson in that, maybe Nebraska fans might have been just a little too hard on the guy over his time there. I think he did quite a good job with that program. And it's tough. It was tough making the shift from the Big 12 to the Big 10. But look at the year they won the Big Ten title. They fought. They were scrappy. They had that down year last year, and then came right back this year and made a run to the postseason. The other coaching change is Purdue's Mark Wasikowski. He'll be leading the charge to bring the Ducks back to greatness at Oregon. There are some rumors that Illinois State's Steve Holm, who Indiana got to see firsthand, might be making his trip back to West Lafayette. We don't know. That hasn't been decided yet. In the other coaching fronts, Indiana's former coaches, Tracy Smith, his Arizona State team did make the regional, and they also went 1-2. It was announced that he is being retained. He's got 2 years left on the contract. Then they made a really big announcement, poaching the pitching coach from Washington. That was a big deal. So Tracy Smith continues to make big moves to try to get the Sun Devils just far enough and get a little bit better next year, so they're in a position so that he can continue to lead that program back to greatness. And what can you say about Chris Lemonis' Mississippi State team? Just absolutely steamrolling through this tournament so far. Really, and of course, in top of how well they've played, the crowds that they've had at the Dude has been in Starkville has been more than amazing. So very curious to see what that team can do in Omaha. Just a ton of talent. They're playing well. All of Starkville seems very happy with the decision to have Chris Lemonis as their coach, because he's got that group just absolutely rolling. All right. So that's kind of the news around college baseball. Chris, what do you have for us on future Hoosiers?
Thanks, Carl. Yeah, that stadium was nuts, though. All those games. The Dude is crazy. They got in this guy's head. I don't know if you saw. He threw 8 balls in a row, and then they took him out. And the next guy, I mean, the guys, it affects a game. I mean, it was really impressive. And I sure didn't mind that they were the ones that knocked out Stanford either. So, Limo, nice work, buddy. Roger, too. As far as the high school stuff, we just wanted to touch on, there are the Indiana High School Championship games going on at Victory Field on Monday and Tuesday night. It did used to be the Saturday triple header. That is not happening this year because there's some kind of scheduling thing where they can't block out the weekend anymore, that they can't hold back the minor league season. So this is going to they have to like basically puzzle piece it in. And obviously, like we talked about, Kyle Hart and the Pawtucket Red Sox will be there on the weekend. So it's going to be Monday and Tuesday night. Okay. Now on Monday night, we have future Hoosier Reese Sharp for University. He's going to be playing Washington Township at 5:30 p.m. on Monday. Now, I would assume Reese would be starting. Somebody asked me, about his pitching stats. What happened was he transferred, so for 365 days he couldn't pitch. I don't know why that's a rule. That appears to be a rule, but now he can. And he pitched real well in the semi-state. He didn't finish the game because of a pitch count, but they won pretty comfortably. So University will be going for a title, and I would expect him to be on the mound to start the game. For Tuesday night, this one's pretty cool. We're guaranteed a winner, because Edgewood with Ethan Vicrumba and Luke Hayden are going to play Andrian with Tyler Nelson. Now, I had a few people at the Edgewood game, and then a few more I didn't even know were there. People were sending me all kinds of stuff. What a game that was. That went 1-1 to the 9th. Luke Hayden is special, folks. Boy, I mean, this guy was solid. 1-1, and he really timed it out well because, like we said, with the pitch count, once you get past 120, you can't get another batter. And in 9 innings, with all the batters, 123 pitches. So he couldn't have faced another batter. And then they walked it off in the bottom 9th. It's a little bit of a defensive miscue, but hey, who cares? A win is a win. You're going to state. It was an unfortunate way to have the game end because both teams played really good. Silver Creek played really good. It was a real fun game. I wasn't at the game, but I felt like I was. All these people sending me stuff. It was really a fun time to follow along. So you can catch that game at 5:30 on Tuesday. Then approximately 8:30, there'll be a little gap into the game 2 of Tuesday night. Southridge, Tucker Shank versus Alexandria Monroe. And now Southport is definitely the favorite, but we'll see what happens with that one. And just to touch back on the game with Andrian, with Tyler Nelson, their starter's dueling. He's going to Vandy, so they'd probably be the favorite in that one. But you never know. Edgewood could pull the upset. That would be pretty impressive if they did. So that's probably it for the future Hoosiers. Now, it looks like we're going to do a little bit more of a in-depth final thoughts because this is going to be the last pod like this for a while. So we're going to kick it over to Josh first for his final thoughts on a little bit of a season recap episode.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I just want to thank all of those who have supported us this season, whether it be giving the website traffic or listening or watching the podcast. This is a labor of love for each of us, and we truly appreciate both the clicks and the feedback that you've given us. Even though this is our final regular season podcast, we do have some things lined up for the off season. Like we did last year, we're going to be doing some special interviews with former Hoosiers, so keep your eyes out for those. We have planned an all-time Hoosier fantasy draft with 2 guests that most of you will definitely recognize and who will probably destroy us with their incredible knowledge of IU baseball. We'll definitely be doing some fall ball recaps once we get to that point. And of course, we'll have a preseason predictions episode sometime early next year. But aside from that, we'll be taking some time to relax and enjoy the summer while also working on ways to bring you a better product and find ways to bring you even better and more extensive and hopefully exclusive content. But again, thanks to all of you who have supported us this season. We appreciate it. So, Carl, what final thoughts do you have for us to wrap up the 2019 Hoosier baseball campaign?
Well, for me, it's simply looking at the season as a whole. You know, you get a new coaching staff. You're not sure what to expect, what's going to happen. You can kind of make predictions and look at the league, and there's so many things you just didn't know going in. But to see this team win a Big Ten title, to see the continuation of getting into regionals, of winning games in the mid 30s, that was I overall a very, very successful season. The coaching change is a tough transition, and this coaching staff intentionally was wanting to shake things up, and it caused some pain early in the season, but they proved that there was some meat there, and they made something happen. Cass, what are your final thoughts?
Well, before I get to my actual final thoughts, I also was on Twitter and saw that just a couple of minutes ago, Scotty Bradley signed with the Jays, no terms disclosed. So that is another Hoosier who has signed their contract. But what I was actually going to say for my final thoughts was kind of echoing Josh a bit on thanking everybody for following along, for chatting with us. I was lucky enough to open the season at Memphis and close it at home against Rutgers, and being able to meet and interact with everybody. It just, most of the time I'm sitting on my couch and I'm doing my stats and I'm in my own little world. But to be able to interact with everybody, to meet everybody, to see such passion in the Indiana baseball fan base is just amazing, and I just love seeing all of that. Having seen from Sembauer what baseball was like to what baseball is like now at the BART, even when it is 35 degrees and wet out, and we still have more people than the brightest, sunniest day at Sembauer. This has just been a phenomenal transformation over the last almost decade now. But it has been amazing, and the fan base is a large part of that. So thank you to all of you who stay engaged in some way, shape, or form. So, Chris, what final thoughts do you have?
All right, thanks, Cass. For me, I just wanted to address, I know we had a lot of, I don't even want to call it, frustration, disappointment, this and that from the postseason, you know what I'm saying, from a 1-4 postseason. But I got to be honest, angry and disappointed fans are better fans that don't even care. You know what I mean? I'd rather see an angry fan than someone who just is numb to it, who just is indifferent, who just doesn't care. And there was a lot of frustration through the postseason, and like I said though, I like talking to you talk about it. A lot of people back and forth, whether it's through the Facebook group or through the Twitter DMs or whatever it might be. I've had some great conversations with people, and there is some anger and there is some frustration, and I can't guarantee it. No one can guarantee anything. But if year one was any impression of what this coaching staff is about, I think they realized what happened. All right. It was a disappointment. It was a 1-4. It was a failure. You know what I'm saying? And something tells you that didn't sit right with them. And I would think that they're going to realize, how do we make us a better postseason team? How do we prepare better for the postseason? How do we play better in the bright lights? And I look forward to seeing what the staff does to address it. But going into this season, I would have took a Big Ten title. You crazy? I would have took a tournament berth. There's a lot of things I would have took that wasn't as good as the way the season was. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. 1-4 is not good. Okay, 1-4 in the postseason is not what you strive to be. You know what I mean? And I'm jealous of the other teams and of watching these big environments and this and that as the tournament goes along. It's not like I don't watch. Of course, I watch. College baseball fan. But and I also, my final thoughts, big congrats out to Michigan. That was so impressive. Carl touched on it before. And these weren't like silly, sloppy games. These were all nail biter games. 1 run, 2 runs, one little defensive play, one bad pitch. They were clutch, and it was impressive. And I will be rooting for them in most of their games, depending on who they're playing. But as far as the final thoughts, again, I think a frustrated and an angry fan base, and a base that wants more and that really wants to go to a Supers and go to the World Series. I think that's great. I will take that anytime over somebody who's indifferent and doesn't care, because that's what I'm used to from the East Coast, to be honest, man. People care, and when things don't go right, they get mad, and that's okay. That's okay, because you know what, you're gonna be mad, and tomorrow you're still gonna root for the team. So as far as final thoughts, that would be mine. That'll do it for this season recap edition of Talking Hoosier Baseball. You can read up on Hoosier Baseball at iubase.com. You can follow us at Twitter accounts at See You at the Bart or iubase17. You could leave a review on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher, and feed the algorithm and stuff like that. And for Carl James, Cassidy Palmer, and Josh Bennett, go Dogs.
I'm going back to Indiana now to see my baby